My name is Katie White. I am the head of HR at Usborne Publishing, and it's been my job in the last couple of years that I've been working with Usborne to really help create an environment where all of our staff are able to enjoy working, have got all the tools that they need to do their job, and that we have the right people in-house to do the jobs that we need. What I'm going to do over the next hour and a half is host some of my colleagues to talk about their different departments, give you an overview of Usborne Publishing, and those individual members of staff which you'll hear from will also talk a little bit about their backgrounds, how they got into publishing, and actually what their job entails. What I'll do then is wrap at the end and talk a little bit about how you might think about getting into publishing, some of the routes to do that, and some top tips that we've learned along the way that might also help you get into that as a career.
Hello, everybody. Hello. So my name's Steve. I'm a managing designer. And that means basically I work with a varying team, but somewhere about 10 designers I'm working with, and lots of editors and lots of different titles. So I work with both Alex and Laura in various ways on different books. So the way I got into my role, when I was growing up, I was always interested in art and music. I didn't really know much about publishing at that point, if anything, but I kind of knew enough of what I like to want to sort of further that. So I went and did a foundation in art. Then that led on to a broad arts degree, art and design. So I was it was a good course in that it gave me an opportunity to play with lots of the aspects that kind of come into my job now. So I could play with typography, with printmaking, with illustration. And so whilst I was at university or art college, I began to develop more of an interest in books, began reading more broadly. And that sort of led me to folk tales was sort of the thing for me when I first started getting that kind of interest in putting design and illustration together with words. And that for me was folk tales and the beginning of kind of creating my own books. Not my own writing, I should say, but taking folk tales and creating books around that. And then that led to much more of an interest in children's books generally. So after I finished college, I suppose I still wasn't absolutely sure. Like Alex mentioned, I think I didn't really know that you could just get a job in designing books. I suppose I thought it was more freelance. So I worked a little bit. I had some freelance illustration for magazines. And then I did a placement with a publisher. And it was at that point that I sort of really decided that it was children's publishing that I wanted to really focus on. And the good thing, I suppose, about being a designer is that obviously you have a portfolio that demonstrates your work. So you can very clearly show an interest in publishing, in the role that you're looking for. So through that, I was lucky enough to find my role at Usborne, where I've been for quite a number of years now. So yeah, my day-to-day role, I work with editors, with Laura and Alex and many more. And I'm sort of, because I'm managing, I'm sort of one step removed a lot of the time. I've kind of slightly bigger picture, which means I'm diving in and out of lots of different projects. A lot of my time, in a way, is just sort of trying to step back and assess and think about if we're going in the right direction, if it works with the editorial, is the illustration looking right? So yeah, I'm sort of problem solving really, a lot in and out. So yeah, the first picture here, when we start a book, a lot of the titles come from a big new ideas meeting. we have with editorial, sales, marketing, talk through a lot of ideas. And those ideas are sort of honed down into titles. And then we ask designers to work with editors and to create covers for us. So what we're trying to do is create covers that are going to pop out from the shelf, that make people want to pick them up and read them, look a bit different to what everybody else is doing. So we'll ask the designer to sort of try lots of different ideas. This being an example of that. So this is just 3 of the ideas. There would have been more than this, and we'll talk about what works, what doesn't. And then if we go to the next pick, please, Katie. So here we'll have got to the first pick on the left. Excuse me, my cat has arrived. That is the final design that the designer has decided on and discussed with the editors. Then we'll commission that. And the one in the middle you'll see is actual first piece of artwork from the illustrator we decide to go with. And then there's a lot of back and forth discussion. And we'll finally end up at our final cover. And this is a series that long ago, I think Alex and I were involved in developing 100 Things to Know About. And this is one of our more recent titles, Music, which we're working on at the moment. So yeah, this is, again, so as well as covers, day to day, we're working on spreads, spread by spread. The editors have largely, especially for these kinds of books, they've got the book plan and the big plan for the book that they will have discussed, possibly with the publishing director, editorial directors. So we've got a kind of a roadmap through the book, and we break that down spread by spread. So we know what we're doing spread by spread, and the designer will work on those spreads one by one. So that first slide would be an example of, in that case, me just roughing out some ideas. You'll just get text from an editor. You've got to think about how you want to actually bring that to life. Once I've done that, we'll bounce it again to an illustrator. So this is an illustrator's rough. That the editors will work closely with the editors. There'll be a lot of back and forth. Probably go to an expert at this stage to make sure all the little tiny details on the space station are correct, and really looking at the way it's reading. Is the pace right? Does this feel like the kind of book that we want to be creating? And then finally, the next one would be the very finished artwork from our illustrator. This is from an illustrator called Laurent King. And this is actually the second book in the series. So again, with this, we knew pretty much where we wanted to place it, but the still previous book we'd done for this was on Stone Age, quite a different setting to a space station. So there's still going to be quite a bit of back and forth and deciding on the actual look of the book and the continual thinking as we go along. So once we've got to that stage, we're pretty much going to design spread by spread, probably a few at a time, back and forth. And I think this book is 96 pages, so quite a few to get through. We'll work on this for a few months, and eventually we'll have the whole book designed and illustrated. And then all that's left for us is checking, proofreading, making sure the files are all set up correctly. And then the final stage is we'll hand this over to our production team, who I think you'll be speaking to a little later as well.